Unmask your money triggers. Today, we are going to uncover the hidden emotions behind your finances and begin your journey to financial wellness and trauma recovery. Welcome, everyone. I'm Michelle Pava, the finance therapist, and today we're going to be diving into a topic that most of us have felt but rarely talk about. So it's the hidden emotions behind our finances. Maybe you've noticed that no matter how much you budget or how much you try to save, something always seems to derail your plans. Or maybe you just feel overwhelmed, wondering if you're ever going to feel at peace with money, even if you technically have it in the bank. So for many of us, financial stress is not just about numbers, it's the emotional weight of past experiences. I'm going to share two quick stories. Both of these individuals will be anonymous. I'm going to change different details, including their names. But each one of them have very different experiences, but I want you to notice if any of these resonate with you. Let's meet Jane Doe. So on the surface, she has it all. She's married to a successful attorney. He is a partner in his law firm. She is self-employed, a high-powered tax attorney with clients who rely on her financial prowess. She inherited significant wealth, real estate passed down from her great-grandparents, trust funds, and all the trappings of privilege. Growing up, Jane had it easy financially. She rode horses, had tennis lessons, went to exclusive private schools, and traveled with her family to luxury destinations. Yet beneath this glamorous life, Jane's childhood was far from ideal. Her parents were deeply invested in keeping up appearances, but their private lives were marred by alcoholism and dysfunction. Everything was about looking good on the outside, but there was little warmth or emotion connection at all at home. She learned early on that love seemed conditional, that it came at a price, one that often involved pretending that everything was perfect and that she was fine. As she got older, she married a man who seemed to fit right into this world of appearances. For years, their marriage looked perfect from the outside. Two accomplished attorneys, traveling frequently, hosting elegant dinner parties. But after 20 years together, cracks in the foundation began to show. Both Jane and her husband had engaged in affairs for over a decade, a hidden dance of betrayal and mistrust, all while maintaining the image of an enviable marriage. Now, Jane finds herself attending social events alone, navigating circles where every wife seems to have a husband by her side. At one of these events, a caterer, a sharp-eyed and charming man, notices her discomfort. He is actually catering the event. He knows how to work the room, though he comes from poverty and what some might call the wrong side of the tracks. He's grown comfortable mingling with the affluent. He's loud, self-assured, and has a bit of a swagger. But in that moment, he's suave and attentive. This is a connection that is quick and easy, and before long, they're dating, but quietly. Their relationship is intoxicating for Jane. It's a thrilling escape from her carefully constructed life. He makes her feel alive, desired, and gives her the attention she missed so deeply in their marriage. But this romance is at a cost. She's footing all the bills, covering extravagant dinners, and allowing him to move into one of her properties. He is closing in on her circle, and now he's navigating in her circle and even putting her down in front of people. Soon he's living off of her. His demands become constant. Do it my way or I'm leaving. He knows her weak spots, pressing on old wounds of neglect and abandonment. As we talked, Jane opens up about the pattern she'd been unknowingly replaying. Her childhood was filled with emotional neglect and an obsession with appearances. She found herself repeating the cycle, but this time with a partner who showed affection only when there was something to gain. For Jane, spending on him was a way to keep him close, but she didn't really see it that way early on, buying security she never felt growing up or in her marriage. Her trigger for spending, trying to keep people near, to fill an emptiness that money couldn't touch. So maybe you don't have a trust fund or inherited wealth, but do you find yourself spending money you really don't have to keep others close to you or to avoid feeling alone? Sometimes financial habits are tied to emotional patterns that we might not even realize, and sometimes it's pretty obvious. So now let's meet John Doe. He grew up in a very tight-knit family that loved each other very much. He has memories of his mother and father sitting on the couch holding hands, watching a show, but they barely made ends meet. His dad worked hard as a landscaper, but he was self-employed, and yet, while a great landscaper, he wasn't really a good businessman. So the jobs came and went, leaving his hours and paycheck inconsistent. He didn't really set up anything where there was any kind of health benefits or any kind of bookkeeping, so money was just very sparse. His mom cleaned houses and was a lunch lady at the public school, and even though he loved her presence, he also dreaded the taunts from classmates who would tease him about his mom, dishing out slop and kind of phrases like that. Money was always tight, and John quickly learned to live with the stress that came with it. He was just used to it. And sometimes his mom would just sit at the kitchen table. This is a memory he had of her just quietly crying while his dad tried to reassure her. But then sometimes his dad would just get frustrated and storm out of the house for hours. And that's just a norm of how he grew up and lived. John grew up feeling the weight of their financial struggles, especially when bill collectors called. A tense event, made worse even when the phone service was shut off. His parents argued over money, sometimes explosively, and he absorbed the message that financial insecurity was just part of life. School clothes were a rare luxury, and he noticed that his mom would cut corners on food or delay replacing broken appliances just to scrape by. John didn't expect much because no one around him had much either. One of his strongest memories, sitting at home with a sprained wrist or a high fever, overhearing his parents ask each other if they could afford a doctor's visit. Every time he had to go to the doctor, he carried incredible guilt, like it was his fault for adding another burden to his parents' never-ending list of financial worries. Without much guidance or resources for college, John dove into the workforce after high school. He wanted to be able to make some money and give it back to his family and help his parents. So he worked his way up the ladder at an insurance company, and over time, he did pretty well for himself. He married, he bought a modest home in a blue-collared neighborhood, and he started a family of his own. For a while, he felt stable. But things changed when his wife decided to stay home with their young children, a decision they both thought was best since preschool was far out of their reach financially. Suddenly, they were living paycheck to paycheck, just like his parents had. Arguments flared up almost daily. John's wife, who had also grown up in a more poor family, had her own habits for saving money. She was coupon cutting and she loved thrift shopping. So John started to resent that, though. So the reason is she was always bringing home deals, which made her feel good, but she was filling the house with things they didn't really need, but that helped her feel secure, even if it meant spending more. Meanwhile, he would splurge on fishing gear to kind of treat himself. After maybe a tense day and thinking about in the future he was going to take some time off and just relax and go fishing, because he remembered also that his dad really never did that kind of thing. An indulgence that helped him to feel more in control, or at least to have something in his life. They tried one of those popular envelope budgeting programs where you just stuff money in an envelope for a bill and knock that bill out. And while it kept them aware of where the money was going, it really didn't touch the deeper resentment or unravel the complicated emotions that now colored every interaction. The constant accusations started to sting. John would accuse her of wasting money, while she pointed to his impulse buys and questioned his judgment. They both felt stuck, blaming each other for the mounting debt and inability to save. As their finances tightened, so did their patience with each other. They were house poor and miserable. And so he was even fearing being needy or irresponsible. And now his wife, that was totally different. she grew up without any kind of sense of stability. And I didn't even get into her story, but her buying habits were rooted in trying to find reassurance and the small things in life. They just both wanted their children to have some sense of stability, but they were both struggling with providing that. So maybe you haven't lived paycheck to paycheck, but do you find yourself making financial choices that don't always add up? Do you clash with a partner over spending habits that tap into deep-seated fears or insecurities? Sometimes financial habits and patterns aren't just about money. They're tied to the emotional roots that we may not even realize that we have. Those are just two stories, and there are as many stories as there are individuals. We all have a very unique money story, very unique perceptions and experiences in our lives. And then once we are partnered up or in a family situation, we are now navigating other people's money situations. And in a work environment, we are also working with then other people's, our colleagues, our peers, bosses, employees, all of their money stories. So next I want to take you through a quick quiz. And this is not anything that you need to write anything down, although you can if you want. This is going to help you to understand your own financial triggers. This is not a pass-fail. It is a chance to recognize patterns that may have gone unnoticed. So this quiz is only here to provide insight. I'm going to take some of the questions from my book, How to Heal Financial Anxiety, and throw in a couple of others to really mix it up a little bit. So, number one, would you say that you are more sensitive than others in your circle? This has nothing to do with money even. So do you think that you are more sensitive or intuitive than others in your circle? Do you think that you respond strongly, even if it's an inward response? So meaning you might respond strongly to a situation, but you might not express it to someone. You just keep it inside. And think about that. Do you feel that your emotions can be intense when it comes to money? Or do you feel a little disconnected to money? Do you feel anxious when checking your bank balance or your credit cards or any receipts? Do you often feel regret or guilt after spending money or even giving money if it is technically within your budget? Do you feel regret or guilt after spending money or giving money if it's not in your budget? Here's a doozy of a question. Do you have a budget? Do you avoid conversations about money because they feel overwhelming? And our last question, do you find yourself overspending when you feel down or stressed? And it primes you to recognize financial anxiety and some triggers. And fear is absolutely a part of financial anxiety, but it's not a part of financial wellness. So let's go on to a guided money story reflection. So this reflection is about a money story. We all have a money story, and that money story changes from day to day. So this is just you and the here and now. These are the beliefs and feelings about money that you've carried with you since childhood. And this story influences every decision that you make because it's about how you view saving and spending and where your priorities are. And sometimes our saving and spending are not connected to our priorities. That's also something to think about as well. So I want you to truly write down the answers to these prompts if you can. So if you need to stop the audio real quick to get a pen and paper, go ahead and do that. Or if you're going to put it in your phone, whatever you're going to do. And if you really want to, you could just listen to it, but try to just stop and really answer the question in your mind. So number one, what is your earliest memory of money? Was it positive or negative? Really think about that. Number two, and there's only 3 questions here. Number two, what were you taught about money growing up? So did it feel like there was never enough, or was it something that wasn't really discussed? Did it feel like there was a bias that wealthy people were greedy? So go into that. And now, lastly, what is one reoccurring thought that you have about money today? For a lot of people, it's just that they want it. They want to knock out their bills. They want to be able to take care of other people in their family. There's this reoccurring kind of like just this hamster wheel of a reoccurring thought that drives a lot of what you feel. So again, the questions are, what is your earliest money memory? What were you taught about money growing up? And what is one reoccurring thought that you have about money today? So I want you to imagine for a second that you grew up where money was tight, and as an adult, that might mean that you feel anxious about spending, even on things you need, or you might go the opposite direction and overspend, feeling that you deserve it after years of doing without. So really reflect on what was happening in childhood, what were you taught? So what did you see? What was the memory? What were you taught? And also what's happening today. So this is for you to see how early beliefs and experiences may impact your financial feelings and wellness today. So now we are going to dive into 3 powerful emotions that often influence our financial decisions: shame, blame, and guilt. These are not fun. They are messy, but if we don't get messy, we can't heal. So shame makes us feel like we don't deserve financial success. Blame causes us to point fingers at other people and our past experiences and circumstances. And guilt can leave us feeling just stuck and undeserving of a fresh start. All 3 of these are not fun at all. They're very messy. And again, we need to just really get into this messiness to heal, but they often overlap. And sometimes they overlap so much we can't know which is the driver. So we need to dive into that. So we're going to look at shame first, and you might need to stop the audio, and that's fine when we get done each general emotion. But let's look at shame. So shame is where you have maybe made financial mistakes in the past and you're very aware of it, like maybe racking up credit card debt or something like that. And shame makes us feel like we need to hide these mistakes. We feel embarrassed about them and we feel weak because of them. And that makes us avoid asking for help because it's our secret. It's a dirty secret. And that can keep us feeling stuck. Blame is a little different. Blame is where you might feel a little angry that you have a defense mechanism where you feel like you need to point the finger and you feel like life handed you something unfair. You dealt with someone or something or an entity that treated you unfairly, and it can lead to resentment and keep us from taking steps towards change. So a shame example would be that you lent money to someone that you know is not going to pay you back and you feel embarrassed about it. Or like I said earlier, you rack up credit card debt. Blame would be someone that racked up your phone bill or that took something from you that you necessarily weren't going to give. Maybe they took your credit card and they were saying like, oh, I thought that it was okay if I used your credit card. And this would be maybe like a family member or a partner. Things where you are pointing the finger saying, you took something from me. This is not fair that you did this. Guilt is different. Guilt can appear when we've made decisions we regret. So it's easy to get caught up in a loop of guilt, wondering, why did I spend the money? Why did I give that person money? The reason why I wanted you to think about this and maybe take some time to think about this is when you are aware of the emotion or the driver, whether it be shame, blame, or guilt, then you can identify and disentangle the emotional responses to money, which can be the first step in moving past them and in having your financial wellness. So maybe take some time, but we are going to dive into some practical exercises for financial healing. Okay, so now that we got things a little messy, let's clean it up. So I have 3 different exercises here. So let's work on what we've identified so far, because something you might not have unleashed the entire story that you have, but you definitely have unearthed some of the emotions that have been driving you because you felt some kind of way during all of this. There was something that hit you, and if it hit you, it's probably a trigger. So some of these emotions and experiences could be influencing your financial behavior. So let's work on releasing them and This will help you to make better financial decisions from a place of being calm and confident, which is part of your financial wellness. So even if you had financial trauma, this is really a part of reframing. So let's reframe a negative belief. So I want you to choose one negative thought or belief that you have about money. It could be something like, I'll never be good with money. Now take that and take a moment to rewrite this in a positive light. So it's as simple as, I'm learning to manage my money in a way that supports my goals. Now, why does this work? Okay, because it seems too simple. This does not mean that you're going to write that sentence and suddenly there's going to be animated bluebirds around you and everything is going to be great. What it means is that you are reframing and you continue to remember that reframing sentence. You train your brain to view the world a little tiny bit differently. Now, you can't just write it down and put it away and say, I'm going to manifest it, throw some sage in the air, and call it a day. This needs to be your new mindset, because if not, you're going to default back to the other mindset. And the other mindset is what got you here today. Got it? So we need to reframe a negative belief. The next thing that we have to do is forgive and release. So think of one financial decision that brings you guilt or shame. I want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. I want you to say to yourself, I did the best with what I knew then. I forgive myself and release this guilt. Now, I'm going to tell you that a lot of people will say, but I knew better. But you actually didn't know better because you didn't have the resources to do the decision that would serve you best. So although intellectually sometimes we know right from wrong or we know what the better decision is, we emotionally need to have those resources. We need to have the resilience. So yeah, you did do the best with what you knew then. You did do the best. You did the best with the resources and the resilience that you had then. And you can forgive yourself and you can release the guilt or the shame. So I want you to work on that. You might need to stop and you might need to reframe how you're going to forgive yourself. And again, this is something that you have to work on ongoing. And this is something that you're going to do to help you make those better decisions for the future. So we're working on past, present, future. I'm a believer that we cannot just focus on healing our past trauma. We need to take actionable steps today, but we also need to look at the future. So that is where we're going to come into our daily financial affirmation. So I want you to write down a simple affirmation, and it can be something like, I'm deserving of financial stability, or I make financial choices that support my well-being. And so when we repeat these affirmations every day, whether it's morning, noon, night, or just in the morning, we are reminding ourselves that this is who we are. And we're setting a path for where we're going to be, but we're pretty much saying, here's the road in front of me, and I'm already taking a few steps on it. So when we are reframing a negative belief, and then we are forgiving ourselves, now we have kind of a clean slate, then we're taking steps towards what we want. So you can stuff envelopes all day long, or you can do the snowball method, avalanche method. All of these methods are out there. But if you don't get to the core of what got you here in the first place, beyond just the dollars and cents, then you're going to constantly be living by methods. And you should really not be in that space. I feel like a lot of these methods are a lot like a very severe diet. When someone wants to lose 10, 20, 50 pounds, they sometimes go to these very strict, severe diets that might work short term, but long term, it's just unrealistic. And so I don't want you to get into a space where you're in some tight method where if you venture off of that method, it's like falling off of a cliff. I want you to have the confidence and belief that you don't even need methods, that you just naturally, organically are in a space of financial wellness. And this would be for you and your partner. So if you're chasing around your partner all of the time, or if they're chasing you around and you're having money fights and things are everywhere, then what you're doing isn't working. And you need to get to a space that is working. So now let's go to some final thoughts and some next steps. So one thing I want you to know is that healing your relationship with money takes time, but every single small step that you take can lead to a more peaceful and empowered financial future. It really can heal financial anxiety and trauma that you've had in the past that is coming out through financial situations. And I just want you to continue to explore these insights and practices. Start with one small shift in your daily habits or your thoughts, and let that be the foundation for the new story of your finances. So you might want to do everything that we just talked about. Maybe you already did, or you might want to extract one thing that just spoke to you and start with that. You don't have to dive in with every single activity that I just gave you. If you just take one, that will start to really make changes in your life. And you won't be alone because we are together. You are in my community. You will be receiving my enrichment newsletter packed with insights on the intersection of feelings and finance, along with exclusive access to my daily podcast and digital magazine. These are resources that are designed to keep you connected, inspired, and growing in all things financial wellness. But I also get it if that's not enough for you right now. Maybe you want to dig deeper. If Jane and John's story resonate with you and you know it's just time to take your next step, I have How to Heal Financial Anxiety, which is a course designed to help you uncover the roots of financial stress, learn to heal some trauma that you've been holding on to, transform negative money habits, create a path toward true financial wellness, and maybe regain your financial life again if you've had a traumatic event. Based on my book, How to Heal Financial Anxiety, this course dives even deeper, offering practical tools, guided exercises, and insights that just aren't available in my book alone. So some of the things you're going to get in the course are in-depth modules, uncovering financial triggers, healing trauma, building healthy relationships if you're in a partnership or with others in your family. Also, how to reframe limited beliefs, guided self-assessments to personalize your healing journey and tackle emotions that fuel not only financial anxiety, but you and your career maybe. And also real-life exercises to help you make lasting changes in your money habits and your mindset. Practical tools to manage daily money decisions and improve financial resilience and emotional resilience, making you more focused on being a leader, whether it's in your home or in your workplace. So thank you for joining me on this journey to heal financial anxiety. Every step that you take towards understanding and reshaping your financial story is a victory on the path to lasting peace and strength. Keep applying these tools and know that you have the power to create the financial wellness that you deserve. I'm here to support you every step of the way. Let's continue moving forward together.